All right, welcome back to the Tulsi Gabbard Television Network, TGTV. What do you think of that idea? I did a live stream with my friends Reed Coverdale and Charles Anderson yesterday. Really good guys, working class guys. They have both decided to be libertarians. I think definitely Reed for the long term. Charles may be the same, not sure. I know Charles at times has had some issues with the economic policies of libertarians, and I've wrestled with it. I've come to the conclusion that nothing is perfect, but I think libertarian thought is closest to where I am. It's closer to that point of view that I have than, say, the Green Party, and there are a number of other independent philosophies out there, conservatism being one of them, even though the Republican Party is supposedly conservative, but they're really not. They're just neo-conservative or neoliberal with different views on social issues. It's pretty much what it is. Tulsi Gabbard tweets this out, and she means it. While we aren't out enjoying the usual Labor Day picnics, it is a great day to say thank you to hardworking men and women across our country, and to thank you for those who are selflessly working on the front lines caring for others during this pandemic. Can I just say I hate that word pandemic because I don't think this is a pandemic. I don't think it's a pandemic. I've come to that conclusion. She says to be safe. I think there are some people out enjoying themselves, Tulsi, and I think this is the problem now that we have moving forward, is that the perception of panic needs to subside. I went to an outlet mall earlier today. Wanted to buy some sneakers for my son. It was a Nike outlet store, and they were having a huge sale, like 40% off, which if you know Nike, they don't do that too often. I get to the mall, which is an outdoor mall, and people walking around wearing masks. I get to the actual store. There are people lined up outside the store wearing masks because they can only allow so many people in the store. At which point, in the Florida sun in September, by noontime, it's like 92 degrees, and the humidity is like 100%, and it's brutal. Even, being in the shade a little bit, it's still pretty rough, and then you're in a line where people aren't 6 feet apart, but they are all wearing masks. I think it would be better if people just kept their distance and didn't wear the mask, okay? Because if you're doing both, it's kind of redundant, all right? That's just my opinion on that, and I hate talking about this, but Tulsi Gabbard mentions it here. Now, my little joke at the beginning, those guys were sort of giving me a hard time because the only videos that people watch on this platform are videos about Tulsi Gabbard. I can do videos about Joe Jorgensen. I think the highest number of views is something like 400. I know there are a few libertarians that have come over to watch this channel. I've changed the name to try to be liberty-minded, liberty-friendly, because I believe libertarianism describes me more than anything else. Although, again, I've always been kind of a raving independent. There are some things that Trump does that I don't mind. There are some things that, like a Bernie Sanders might do, that I wouldn't mind too much. I do think the whole People's Party thing that I watched the other day, it's Green Party. It's another Green Party. So you've got the People's Party, and then you've got the Green Party. I don't know how they're going to really appeal to independents or people who are conservatives. There are conservatives, moral conservatives, people who aren't cultural Marxists, who want some reforms, but they want to be assured that authoritarianism isn't going to creep in. What's good about Tulsi Gabbard is she really is an advocate for civil liberties. Yet, I think she wants to be a populist at times. I think there's certainly libertarian characteristics. I was talking to my friends and noting that during the campaign, Tulsi Gabbard would mention that there are libertarians at her events. She would never say there are Green Party people at her events. There are Democrats, there are Republicans. There were Republicans at her events. And there are old school, what I call JFK-style Democrats at her events. There are no, super progressives because they don't trust Tulsi Gabbard because she's in the military. And that's how I view that issue. I know people hated it when I said that, but it just seems that they're allergic to the military. Like they just feel that the military creates evil-minded people and we can't trust Tulsi Gabbard because of that, and that's ridiculous. Her service has made her a better person and thus a better candidate. It doesn't take away from the fact, however, that I'm disappointed in tweets like this because it continues. We're in month number 6 now of this. And the question I have for everyone is, okay, when does it begin to fade? When do we start to talk about lifting mandates? When do we stop saying pandemic? Because based on this, what this category is here, the flu is a constant pandemic. It ebbs and flows. It comes, it goes. Sorry about the rhyming there, but that's what popped into my head. And it technically never goes away. So based on what numbers is this a pandemic? Is it a pandemic because there's no vaccine? And don't get me started on vaccines. You need to test vaccines for years before you introduce them to the population. This notion, this fast tracking, and by the way, Donald Trump is doing this in addition to all of the neoliberals who want this out quickly, and it's going to be you plus new stuff if you take this vaccine. You're going to be like a GMO tomato if you take this vaccine. I would not recommend that. All right, I would wait. I would look into therapeutics. I would looking into beefing up your immune system. I won't say, the thing that Trump was talking about a few months ago, but that's all over the place. There are doctors that talk about what Trump was saying months ago, and I think there's some merit to it. Taking a pill a couple times a week as a preventative, along with some other things like zinc, is a good idea. Now, I'm not saying it's going to save everybody from, if you've got a compromised immune system, if you're elderly, if you're immunocompromised in any way, it might be a difficult road to travel. But I think it's like 99.7% of people who get this do not die. So we need to have perspective, and I would like Tulsi Gabbard and other politicians out there, governors and so forth, turn down the heat here, turn down the rhetoric, and start to report recoveries and some of the good news and the fact that certainly, mortality rates have dropped. They have not gone up. They have dropped fairly steadily. And in the states like Florida and Texas, things are starting to get better. They're definitely starting to get better. New York was getting better. I don't know. They say, every time you turn on the news, they say there's a spike here, there's a spike there in this college, and kids going back to school, but they're not getting deathly ill. And I think that's what people need to realize, rather than belaboring things and just using the same rhetoric and the same language. Saying pandemic for the sake of saying pandemic, it's not cool with me. So, in any event, I'm thinking maybe after the election, if Tulsi Gabbard makes some kind of a move, that maybe I'll rededicate this channel to what she's doing to keep people up to date on that, because Tulsi Gabbard has a following. It's probably a bigger following than Joe Jorgensen, the candidate I'm going to vote for. The reason I'm voting for Joe Jorgensen is because she's actually on the ballot, and to start a movement, I think you need to vote for somebody who realistically has a chance, even if it's a small chance, to actually be the president. Without Tulsi's name appearing on the ballot, you have to write her name in. And there are only 10 states, from what I remember, who allow you to write in a candidate just flat out where they'll count it. And I think you have to have the candidate's information precisely in order to do that. So you need to get, I believe, where Tulsi Gabbard lives and so forth, and you need to write all that information in so they can actually tabulate that. And will they? I mean, there's already talk of election fraud from both sides of the aisle, and it's just tumult and chaos and all kinds of nonsense happening. And yeah, if you want to say that you wrote Tulsi Gabbard in, I would buy you a beer if you showed up where I lived. I think it's cool. I don't necessarily think it's the most productive thing to do here. I mean, if you want to vote for a third party, I think that shows that you're trying to do something new and outside the duopoly. I really believe that Tulsi Gabbard should get away from the Democratic Party. Both of these parties are corporations. They're not political parties. They do incredible amounts of fundraising. They solicit donations. They sell merchandise. It's a corporation. And it never shuts down. And this isn't the way our founding fathers designed the voting system. I mean, it's a pageant, and it's a 4-year cycle. And as soon as you get through one 4-year cycle, and if you're running for Congress, it's a 2-year cycle. So you're basically always campaigning. You're always soliciting donations. You win a race, you got to prepare for your next challenger. And I think, people in Congress, I think, should get 3 or 4 years. I think it would be better. Whereas in the Senate, I think you should be scaled down to 4 years and not get 6 years. I think that's too long. A lot can happen in 6 years, and I think you should prove yourself every 4 years, just like the president has to. And so the 4-year cycle, I think, would be appropriate. Maybe it would be too much for our election infrastructure, but I do believe it would be a good idea. Now, when would I change the channel over to the Tulsi Gabbard television network? Probably after the election. But because right now I want people to think about Joe Jorgensen. I want people to think about libertarianism. And for those of you who don't understand libertarianism or just are frightened by the economic things that are presented in libertarianism, I would encourage you to watch Reed Coverdale, the naturalist capitalist. He does real wonky videos, long form, like 20-minute plus videos. Great for like if you're exercising or going for a walk, or you want to have something on in the background while you clean the kitchen or something, and you can learn something as you listen to Reed. And he's had a lot of great guests on his show that can help you with that. Again, the naturalist capitalist. I highly recommend him. And also the Lone Wolf podcast with my friend Charles Anderson. Charles tells it like it is. Charles is a bit more blue collar and a bit more populist in the way he presents. Reed is almost like an intellectual, very cerebral, but they both have great perspective. And quite honestly, I like both perspectives. I like to hear from kind of a shoot from the hip, sort of real world narrative. And I also like to get book smart with somebody like Reed, who can really present some heavy duty information, and maybe in, manageable bites, but he presents it in a way that I think is very informative. So I'm trying to help people on other channels as well as this channel. I'd like people to keep subscribing to this channel. It hasn't worked out. If I scared you off, and you're a Tulsi fan, I don't want to scare you off. I still think Tulsi Gabbard as a threat, and when I say threat, I say it in a good way. Again, she's attractive. She has done so much service to her or for her country. She's outspoken. She's a leader. She wants to work across the aisle. And plus, she's a combination of different viewpoints that I don't think anybody else in Congress embodies. So I give her all of those things, and yeah, she would be a unity candidate for sure if a party came along and wanted to draft Tulsi Gabbard and someone else to run on a ticket. She'd be a great unity candidate, and I'd be out there supporting her. So I'll let you know, obviously, I've changed the name of this channel a gazillion times already. At one time, this was the Save America Vote Tulsi Gabbard channel. After that, maybe we'll just cover Tulsi. We'll talk about some of the things that she's working on, because obviously I won't have a presidential race to cover anymore. And, you know, if you're going to give me sodium pentothal, you know, Joe Jorgensen is a big-time long shot. And it's not as if I'm going to be covering President Jorgensen, but I'm trying to wake people up to the idea that you don't have to vote for the duopoly. And I also want to wake Tulsi Gabbard up to the idea that she doesn't have to stay in the duopoly. Even if she just put an I next to her name at this point, I would be very happy about that. And I think you should really, you know, encourage her. If you're, you know, close to Tulsi Gabbard, say, hey, you know, the Democratic Party right now, with most of it not really condemning the kind of stuff that's going on in the streets of various cities, they're kind of winking and nodding and saying, yeah, this is going to help us. I don't know if it's going to help you. Any of those great ideas that come from the progressive left, and there are a few of them, not all of them, but there are a few of them. I'll listen to those ideas, but if you're, you know, got a pitchfork and you're running around smashing stuff, and I'm being nice with a pitchfork because, you know, you basically got armed militias running around in the streets. And yeah, I know there are people on both sides doing this stuff, but the majority of the destruction is in cities that are run by Democrats, and the Democrats in those cities don't seem to be, you know, trying to quell the violence at all, which to me is, it's a non-starter. I would never vote for a politician that excuses lawlessness and violence. I would never do that. So, and I don't think Tulsi Gabbard would either. I'd love to know her perspective on what's happening right now. She's been very quiet about it. So maybe down the road she'll make a statement about it, because I think it would do her a lot of good, and it would help kind of shore up her constituency for the future, because we need to know, what do you think about all this? Maybe she'll wait till after the election, like yours truly. So there's only a couple of months, less than a couple of months until the election. So stick with this channel if you're a Tulsi fan. Again, you can look at the list of videos as of late, and I've been doing a lot of Tulsi Gabbard content. This channel was making almost $0 a month. It's slightly higher than that now, but I need to build subscribers, and I need to certainly maybe get some people back who've left. But I can guarantee you I'm still the same person. I just don't know what to do politically. I mean, if you don't have a home, you don't know where to settle, and you're worried about safety and security and so forth. I know there are a lot of Tulsi people that are probably going to vote for Donald Trump. I know that. I know there are a lot of people that came over who were Trumpers who liked Tulsi Gabbard way better than Donald Trump, and knew that her moral character and her service and her open-mindedness to a number of different things, and the fact that she was eloquent, they loved all of those character traits and said, hey, I can ditch the orange man and we can have a president who is someone we can be proud of. And I totally get that. You do want somebody who you could tell your kids about. I used to say this in videos at the beginning. Hey, Johnny, look at our president. Isn't she wonderful? Isn't she an awesome person? And she's warm, and she's friendly, and she's relatable. And those are characteristics, by the way, that not everybody has. Those are things you can't teach. They're inherent, and it's part of her whole aloha charm, which, you know, I was getting a little tired of toward the end of the campaign, but I think she truly believes in it, and she, for the most part, lives by it. I wish she wouldn't have co-sponsored the Trace Act, but again, this seems to be her thing these days. I would hope that she would really take a look at the data and come to a new conclusion about this soon, because people really need to get back to work soon. We're currently in a depression, and people don't understand. This is going to have ramifications for months and possibly years to come, and people are just kind of living in the now. And Trump's arguing that he's creating jobs and jobs are coming back, but yet people are still filing for unemployment, and the labor force seems very stagnant right now. There are a lot of people that have been frozen by this entire pandemic thing, and they can't function because of it. They don't feel as though they can go back out and do the things they did before. And by the way, the two companies that have done the best during the pandemic, so-called pandemic, Walmart, Amazon. That's all you need to know. And they were already problematic, very problematic corporations prior to this. And this is why, when you think this through, it just doesn't seem, there's something not right about this. There's something not right about it. You don't have to be a conspiracy theorist, okay? All I'm saying is I don't think this is just a coincidence or an accident that these two corporations, who already make more money than they need and already are undertaxed. Imagine if we could tax some of that revenue and bring it back to where people need treatments for various things and help people, just in general. People are getting evicted and so forth. I know that sounds a little like I'm talking about socialism here. I don't know what I'm talking about in a sense. I really don't. I'll be honest with you. I'm just looking at the fact that these guys, because they're part of crony capitalism, they're doing really well. And that's the reason for it. If you're going to tax small businesses, if you're going to tax individuals, you need to be taxing these large corporations. A more libertarian viewpoint would be to just stop taxing individuals altogether. All right, because if you're not gonna tax Jeff Bezos and Amazon, then you don't need to be taxing Dave or Tulsi or Reed or anybody. It's just it's not right. I mean, if you're gonna be fair, be fair. But if you're gonna have this graduated system, which is mostly in bed with the federal government and another arm, these corporations are basically another arm of government. They're the ones that enforce these mandates, by the way. I mean, individual corporations should have the right to do what they want to do, to some degree. If the government doesn't impose a mandate, but yet the corporation, the business does, that's just, I don't know. The system is really, bass backwards at that point, and people need to start to push back on it. Again, get to know your local sheriffs, get to know your local legislators, have relationships, talk to people locally that you know, because that's where the rubber meets the road. Tip O'Neill was right. All politics is local, and I think you can make more of an impact on your school board or doing something in your community, which makes a statement. So in any event, Tulsi Gabbard for president in 2024? Don't know. Maybe that'll be the channel's name. I don't know. Or the Tulsi TV network. We'll figure it out. If you have suggestions, send them via email. It's davidjspuria@gmx.com. Haven't used that email in some time. Also, PayPal donations are also accepted there for this channel if if you're feeling sorry for me or would just like to contribute to the effort. Also, there's a Patreon link if you want to give like $1 or $2 a month. If you send me messages over there, keep them within a paragraph or two. It's just I get a lot of messages from this channel and my other channel, and if you're typing an essay out to me, most likely I'm not going to have enough time to really dig into it. But thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.